Hi there, I'm Trevor and welcome to TH Training Painting. In this video, making hills part 3, I'm going to show you how to make this hill. This hill is a step up from the other hills we've previously done before. However, please check out Making Hills part 1 if you want to see how to make the basic hill shape. And you can see that video somewhere here. So, when you're ready, grab your tools and let's get to work. Here's another of the hill pieces I cut previously. This one I'm going to give some texture to by gluing sand onto it. To start, I've laid out a sheet of paper to protect my work surface and also help with cleaning up the unused sand. I have here a container of kiln dried sand which is taken from a much larger bag. Kiln dried sand is quite inexpensive and can be purchased from any decent DIY store. You can also buy small bags of sand in most tabletop gaming stores, but when making wargaming terrain you can use a lot of sand and this option can become very expensive. I've got some PVA glue that I've decanted into a small resealable tub and I'm now going to cover the hill with it. The easiest way to do this is just to paint it on with a brush. When working with your own hills, a small amount of suitably coloured acrylic paint can be added to the glue to let you see your coverage, but in this tutorial I'm not going to do that. As my brush will take some abuse working the glue into all the nooks and crannies of this hill, I advise not using your best brushes at this stage. Now that the hill is covered in PVA glue, I'm ready to add the sand. Like the flock in my previous videos, I've decanted a portion of the sand into a more manageable container. There's no complicated way to do this, I'm just going to pour it all over the hill, making sure that in the areas where it's a bit steeper, I'll add excess of the sand to adhere to the PVA. So underneath this small mound of sand is the hill, which I'll leave to dry before moving on. Once the PVA glue is dry, I'll remove the unused sand, which should leave you with something like this. The next step is to put on the first layer of paint. For the base coat, I'm going to use some burnt umber acrylic paint. As I've just a small area left to paint, I'm going to use the paint in the bottle's lid. Once the hill is completely covered, leave it to dry. Now that the paint is dry, I'm going to add some colour depth, and for this I'm going to apply 2 lighter colours using the dry brushing technique. If you've never done any dry brushing before, click the link in the description below for a quick tutorial. I'm going to start with some yellow ochre acrylic paint. To make sure I get all that detail picked up, this layer will be applied heavier to get greater coverage. Don't worry about getting too much paint in some areas, this can easily be covered up with some flock. Next colour I'm going to use is buff titanium. Unlike the yellow ochre, this layer will be lightly brushed on to highlight more of the detail. Now the dry brushing is complete, I'll let the paint completely dry before moving on to the next stage. Now the paint is dry, the hill is ready to receive some flock. To make cleaning up easier, I would advise putting down a piece of paper big enough to cover the footprint of the model. For this hill, I'm going to put some flock on the top and leave most of the sides exposed dirt. To do this, I'm just going to load up the paintbrush with the watered down PVA and apply it to the chosen area. The amount of glue added will determine how much flock will be on the hill. Taking my container of flock, I'll just gently sprinkle it all over the areas I covered with glue. The PVA glue is now dry and the excess flock can be removed. Picking up the model, I'm just going to give it a tap to remove any excess flock. Before we can get a good look at the model, let me clear up the excess flock and put it back in the container. So, here is our completed hill, ready for the tabletop.